Okay, let's begin with the today's session. In the last lecture, we started with unit number 2. This unit number 2 is based on mechanics of metal cutting. So in this unit, we are going to study the metal removal process where single point cutting tool is to be used to remove the unwanted material from the work surface. So we went through these objectives and we discussed these metal removal processes also. This part also we have covered in the last session. The metal removal processes has got three major categories. First one is conventional, second abrasive, and third one is non-conventional. So the conventional where there is a direct contact between cutting tool and workpiece. Additionally, the cutting tool is need to be more harder than the workpiece which is to be machined. Those two requirements has to be satisfied when it comes to conventional machining. In abrasive machining, the abrasives are used to remove the material from the work surface. There is also going to be mechanical chipping where the abrasives removes material in the form of small chips. And third one is non-conventional where the basic requirements of conventional, that is the direct contact between cutting tool and workpiece, and second one is cutting tool has to be harder than workpiece material. Those two requirements can be neglected in case of non-conventional machining. So in non-conventional machining, the cutting tool and workpiece need not to be in direct contact. Additionally, the cutting tool need not to be harder than workpiece also, because there are various metal removal mechanisms like chemical processes are there, thermal processes are there, electrochemical combination of two or three mechanisms also. So this part also we have discussed, and then we were supposed to begin with this actual metal cutting. So before begin with this metal cutting, basically the metal cutting process means, this one also we have talked a lot of time, but still, suppose this is a raw material and this raw material has to be converted into some product. So for that one, suppose the desired product is of this shape. So this product has to be taken out from this raw material. So what I need to do, I need to remove the unwanted material from this object so that I can convert this raw material into some useful product. We know what is requirement of metal removal processes also, right? Why we need to go for metal removal processes? Because the primary shaping processes like casting, molding, and few additional metal forming processes. When you get product from those processes, the product are going to have some unnecessary projections on the work surface. The surface properties or surface finish might be of some inferior quality, or because of the limitations associated with the process itself, we need to provide some material allowance on the object, so that excess material that you have provided has to be removed before putting this product into application. So because of all these limitations, we need to go for metal removal processes. So after applying the metal removal process, you are going to change shape, size, surface properties, etc. So you can change either of those things to increase the value of the product. Again, metal removal process is a value addition process where you convert raw material into a useful product by removing unwanted material. So this is introduction to metal removal process. Now when it comes to metal removal process, there are certain parameters, you can call those as variables also, that we need to study, because those variables or those parameters are going to decide the nature of product or the performance of the process. When you convert raw material into useful product using a certain process, with which effectiveness you can convert raw material into useful product, that will be dependent of these variables. So these variables are majorly categorized into two parts. The first one is independent variable and second one is dependent variable. Or in some textbook you can find it as uh, these are called as primary variables and secondary variables also. Okay, but we are going to follow this independent and dependent variable terminology. So what is mean by independent variables? So independent variables are basically the things that you are going to control. Means suppose you are using that lathe machine for the conversion of raw material into useful product. The parameters that you are going to control. So what are the parameters that you can control? Suppose you are done with that workpiece, cutting tool, machine tool, everything. That selection part is done, and you are about to begin with the actual material removal or actual machining. Still, there are certain parameters that you can control, and those parameters are like the rotational speed of the check, the feed rate with which the cutting tool is going to move, or even the depth of cut that you are going to use. So these parameters are going to be controlled by the user. And when you change these parameters, if I increase depth of cut or decrease depth of cut, if I increase feed rate or decrease feed rate, similarly if I increase this rotational speed or decrease this rotational speed, there are certain parameters that are going to get affected. Either of these independent variables, if I change any of the parameter, there are certain parameters, those are going to be affected, or those parameters will get changed, and those parameters are called as dependent parameters or dependent variables, because these are dependent of these input variables. Okay, so what are the dependent and independent variable examples? If you talk about independent variables, the everything right from the machine tool, all the parameters that you can choose are falls under the independent variables category. So what are those variables? A, these are related to cutting tool. So what you can choose in case of cutting tool? You can choose the cutting tool material, the coatings provided on the cutting tool that you can choose, tool shape, tool surface finish, tool sharpness, that is also in your hand, the workpiece material and condition of the workpiece, for which application the product is to be produced. Depending upon that one, you can choose the workpiece material. Also the workpiece condition, means whether you have hardened that workpiece material, whether you have undergone any surface treatment process before putting into machining. That way you can decide the condition of workpiece also. Then actual machining, you can control cutting speed, feed rate, depth of cut. You can choose the cutting fluids or cooling fluids or coolants. We can call coolants. So cutting fluids, the method of application of that cutting fluids, that also you can choose whether it is flood cooling, mist cooling, or in absence of coolant. That also you can choose. Then characteristics of the machine tool, whether machine is a rigid one, what are the capabilities of the machine tool, that also you can choose. Then work holding fixtures, when you mount the workpiece or cutting tool on a machine tool, you need to use some instruments, and that instruments also you will get to choose. So all these variables that you can choose from are called as independent variables. Now, out of all these variables, if any of the variable is changed, it is going to be resulted into change into dependent variables. So what are the dependent variables? The first one, types of chip produced. So while machining, there are certain types of chips that you can observe. We are going to discuss this one in the upcoming slide, but the types of chip produced will be dependent of those independent variables. The amount of forces generated and energy dissipated during the cutting, that would be result of the variation in independent variables. The amount of temperature generation or temperature increase, that will be also result of that change in input variables. Then tool wear and tool failure. So amount of wear rate, that is also dependent of those independent variables. And then finally, surface finish, surface integrity. So surface finish and surface integrity, in the sense, what are the microstructural changes that are going to occur in the workpiece material because of the machining process, that decides the surface integrity. So these parameters are called as dependent variables, because these parameters you are not going to choose, but these parameters are going to be dependent on the parameters that you have chosen, and those variables are independent one. So independent variables and dependent variables. Now if you take an exam, the various parameters that we discussed over here, out of those parameters there are certain important parameters that we need to discuss in details, and the two important parameters are feed rate and depth of cut. Now, when you discuss this feed rate and depth of cut with the help of this sketch, you can easily get that the initial diameter of workpiece is this much. I will start machining from this end, and when I complete one cut throughout the workpiece surface or throughout the required length, the amount of material to be removed in single pass, that is nothing but the depth of cut. And second one is feed rate. Now how to measure that feed rate? The workpiece is going to be provided with rotary motion. Cutting tool is going to have two motions. What are those two motions? If I consider cutting tool is over here, then I can have this motion. This motion will decide the depth of cut, and cutting tool is going to have this one motion also, and this motion is nothing but the feed motion. Whenever you are talking about the material removal, there are two types of motions. The first one is called as primary motion, and second one is called as secondary motion. Now this appears too easier. So to complicate this one, primary motion is also called as cutting motion, and secondary motion is also called as feed motion. So how to differentiate between those two motions? Suppose this is a chuck in which this workpiece has been mounted. Now this is cutting tool. Now if I want to remove some material from this work surface, first condition that has to be satisfied is I need to bring this cutting tool in contact with the work surface. So I'll have to move the cutting tool in this direction. Okay. So that is first motion. Now, when cutting tool and workpiece are in contact with each other, material removal will not begin. I need to provide some additional motion, and that motion is rotary motion provided to the workpiece surface. So as long as I don't provide this rotary motion to the workpiece surface, material removal will not begin. So the rotary motion provided to this workpiece is called as cutting motion or primary motion. Okay. Now workpiece is rotating, cutting tool is in contact with the workpiece surface. But once it has removed some material from here, if I want to convert this raw material into product, I need to provide another motion to the cutting tool, and that motion is called as feed motion. So the another motion is secondary motion that is provided to a cutting tool, and that motion is called as feed motion. So two types of motion: primary, which is called as cutting motion; secondary, which is called as feed motion, and that we have differentiated with the help of this lathe operation. If you have any doubt, any query, let me know. Okay, so the feed rate, now we are going to measure the feed rate. Depth of cut, we got to know that the forward motion provided to a cutting tool, that is usually in terms of millimeters, and that motion is nothing but the depth of cut, or that is going to decide the depth of material to be removed in a single pass. Okay. Now second, feed motion. So how to measure that feed motion? The workpiece is provided with the rotary motion. The cutting tool over here, cutting tool has been shown over here, but for better understanding, I am drawing it here again. So workpiece is rotating, and cutting tool is going to move in this direction to remove the layer from the work surface. So suppose workpiece is rotating with 1000 revolutions per minute. So in single minute, the workpiece is rotating 1000 times. And if the cutting tool is moving towards left 10 millimeter per minute. Okay, so workpiece is rotating at a rate of 1000 revolutions per minute, and cutting tool is moving towards left at a rate of 10 millimeters per minute. Means 1 minute cutting tool will travel a distance of 10 millimeter, whereas the workpiece is rotating 1000 times. So I need to correlate this distance traveled 10 millimeter and number of revolutions. So if I divide this 1000 by 10, what I will get? For one revolution, by what distance cutting tool is moving in this direction, and that distance is nothing but the feed rate. So you can get the feed rate as a unit millimeter per revolution. I think I reverse the thing, reverse the rotational speed and feed motion. What we need to do, divide this 10 millimeter by 1000. So unit is mm per revolution. So mm is 10 millimeter. If I divide it by 1000 revolution per minute, and this is mm per minute, so this minute will get cancelled and you will get the unit mm per revolution. Okay, so feed rate is nothing but for one rotation of workpiece by what amount cutting tool has moved. That ratio is nothing but the feed rate, millimeters per revolution. Okay, now in the next sketch, the same drawing has been drawn in further details. Here you can see this is a cutting tool. It is going to move in this direction with velocity v. This is workpiece. If I draw its original shape, the workpiece is going to be of this much dimension. Okay, so if cutting tool we consider over here, this much amount of material is going to be removed in a single pass when cutting tool moves in this direction. So that dimension is nothing but a depth of cut or uncut chip thickness denoted by T0. The amount of material removed in a single pass, depth of that material is nothing but depth of cut, or also called as uncut chip thickness denoted by T0. Now while removing the material, when cutting tool proceeds in this direction, what will happen? Over here, the material will start deforming because of the relative motion between cutting tool and workpiece. And after deformation, the material will start shearing along this plane. Along this plane, you can find material shearing and moving along this rake face. This is the cutting tool face along which this material is going to move in this direction. So the plane at which that shearing takes place, this plane is called as shearing plane, and inclination of that plane with direction of motion is denoted by angle phi, and it is called as shear angle. Then another important parameter is this rake angle. This rake angle we already have discussed. At this point, if I draw a vertical line and measure its measure inclination of this cutting tool face with that vertical, that angle is called as rake angle. When it is on the right hand side of the vertical, the angle is positive, and when it is on left hand side of the vertical, angle is negative. This one we have discussed while talking about the grinding process. Okay, in single point cutting tool, that rake angle is going to have positive value, whereas in grinding it is going to have negative value. So that angle is rake angle. Now this is thickness of the material which is being cut, which is denoted by depth of cut or uncut chip thickness denoted by T0. And after formation of chip, this T0 will be converted into this TC. because same material has got converted into chip and its width has got changed, or its thickness has got changed, and that thickness will be denoted by TC, and it is called as chip thickness. So T0 is uncut chip thickness and TC is chip thickness. Remember those two parameters. We are going to frequently use those two things. So T0 is uncut chip thickness and TC is chip thickness. Factors. Okay, this need not to be discussed. This one you can take a look later on. Single point cutting tool geometry. Now, as I said earlier, this whole unit is based on application of single point cutting tool to remove the material. So having better understanding of the cutting tool geometry is very much important. So we are going to discuss this single point cutting tool geometry also. Now instead of going through this paragraph, I will take you to the sketch and I'll explain the same things over here. So this is three-dimensional representation of the single point cutting tool. And this is actual view. This cutting tool you might have used while working on the lathe machine. You might have got it in terms of a square bar made up of HSS, high-speed steel, and then by grinding its various faces, you might have converted it into a single point cutting tool. So this is actual view and this is three-dimensional representation. So in this three-dimensional representation, okay, the cutting tool has got certain faces. This top surface is called as face or rake face. This surface, these two are called as flank of the cutting tool. Now, the top surface, which is called as face or rake face, is going to decide the chip flow. Because if you use this cutting tool to remove the material, this is the actual point that is going to cut the material, and the formed chips are going to slide along this face. So this face is nothing but this highlighted top face. So this face decides the chip flow. The formed chips, how they flows across this cutting tool will be decided by this face. Whereas this flank face, this one and this one, these two faces are necessary to provide the clearance between workpiece and cutting tool. Okay, let's continue. So we were discussing this single point cutting tool geometry. This top face called as rake face that decides the flow of the formed chips, whereas the flank, this face and this face, those two faces are going to decide the clearance between the cutting tool and workpiece. Actually, clearance is required on this face as well as this face, because those two faces are not supposed to contact the cutting workpiece. The contact has to be only of this point. Only this point has to be in contact with the workpiece. Except that, everything has to be away from the workpiece. So those two faces are going to decide that clearance. Now, this top surface, rake face, as I mentioned, this is the highest point. If you go in this direction, it will go deeper and deeper. You can see over here, this thin line is the actual top surface, and with compared to that top surface, this edge is at certain depth. So in this direction, there is a slope. Additionally, at this point or this point, if you go in this direction, again there is a slope. That slope you can observe over here. Now, the angle provided over here is called as side rake angle, whereas the inclination or angle provided over here is called as back rake angle. So we are talking about a rake surface, and it has got two inclinations. First one is called as side rake angle and another one is called as back rake angle. Similarly, the flank face is also provided with two angles. Those angles are called as flank angles or relief angles. The inclination provided over here, this face is going to be inclined in this direction. So that inclination is called as side relief angle, whereas the inclination with this vertical is called as end relief angle, or also called as clearance angle. So side relief angle and end relief angle, those are related with this flank face. Now next, the cutting tool is going to have two cutting edges, this cutting edge and this cutting edge. Now those two cutting edges meet at this point. This is one cutting edge and this is another cutting edge, and where those two cutting edges meets each other, that point will be having certain radius. Normally, if you observe that point with naked eyes, you will find that it has got a pointed surface. But if you observe it microscopically, it will have certain radius, and that radius is called as nose radius. So minor cutting edge and major cutting edge, those two cutting edges where meets each other, that point will have certain radius, and that radius is called as nose radius. And additionally, the inclination of those two cutting edges will be represented by inclination of this edge, end cutting edge angle, and inclination of this edge is indicated over here, and that is called as side cutting edge angle. So end cutting edge angle and side cutting edge angle, that is the inclination of major and minor cutting edge. Now, to simplify this 3D sketch, these three views are used. This is first one, this is second one, and this is third one. Now, if I look at this tool from the top, the view that I'll get is represented in sketch A. When I look at the cutting tool from the top, this view will be visible to me. Now there I will get two inclination, or I can represent two inclinations. The first inclination end cutting edge angle that is shown over here, and another one is side cutting edge angle that is represented over here. Those two inclinations will be visible in top view. If I look at the same cutting tool in this direction, this B view will be visible. Now in that view, I'll get to represent two inclinations. First one, this side rake angle, that is inclination of this face with horizontal. So that would be visible over here, side rake angle. And additionally, this whole surface is inclined with vertical at certain angle. That is represented with side relief angle over here, and that would be visible in the front view. So in front view, you will get two inclinations, side rake angle and side relief angle. And if you look at the same tool in this direction, you will get the third view. So in that view, you will get two inclinations. First one, this back rake angle, that is inclination of this edge with horizontal, inclination of this cutting edge with horizontal, that is back rake angle, and inclination of this edge with axis or vertical, that is denoted by end relief angle. End relief angle or clearance angle, that is represented over here. So in those three views, you will get two individual inclinations. So when it comes to representing a single point cutting tool geometry, there are 7 characteristics that we need to remember. What are the 7 characteristics? Two related to rake face, side rake angle, back rake angle. Two related to flank, side relief angle and end relief angle, and two related to cutting edge, side cutting edge angle, end cutting edge angle, and point where those two cutting edges meets, it has got certain radius, and that is nose radius. So those 7 parameters we need to know when you want to specify the cutting tool geometry. So all those things has been explained in this slide. You can read this one if you have any doubt. But remember this one, that you need to know the cutting single point cutting tool has 7 elements. And what are the 7 elements? Back rake angle, side rake angle, end relief angle, side relief angle, end cutting edge angle, side cutting edge angle, and nose radius. So those 7 parameters you are supposed to know. Now this is a conventional method that we are using since a long time, but nowadays, instead of using this square bar made up of cutting tool material, what we do, instead of making this whole thing of the cutting tool, these kind of inserts are used. So cutting tool is only this insert that is to be mounted on some supporting surface, and that supporting surface could be of any material, that need not to be made up of the cutting tool material. So these are the two examples of tool holders. That supporting surface is called as tool holder. So it will be having a supporting surface, clamping screw, clamp. Now here, this is insert which is mounted with the help of this clamp. This is also an old method, but nowadays or recent trend is this insert is provided with a hole at the center, that is shown over here. So this is the latest one. So you can put that insert in the cavity provided, and there would be one screw, there would be threaded hole in the tool holder, where you just need to put the insert and fix this screw. This insert is going to have multiple cutting edges. If I take the example of this cutting tool, then I can have one cutting edge over here, one cutting edge over here, one cutting edge over here, one cutting edge over here. That is at the top surface. Similar 4 edges on the bottom surface also. Means if this edge or this corner worn out, I can go for the another one. I can go for the another one. So single cutting tool I can use 8 times. It has got 8 cutting edges. Depending upon the geometry of the cutting tool, that you can see various shapes of the cutting tool, that cutting edges may vary. But if I take example of this one, I can have 8 cutting edges. So this is the recent trend where we use inserts to remove the material. Okay. Next, chip formation mechanism. How exactly chip forms and how exactly the material is removed. Now, while studying the chip formation mechanism, this chip formation is supposed to be compared to movement in deck of cards sliding against each other. The cards you might have played, if you hold the deck of that card in your hand and if you push it with your finger, what will happen? One card will slide over the other, right? That sliding movement of one card over the other is considered to be similar to this chip formation mechanism. That is one layer of chip sliding against another chip. Now, in some cases, those chips or segments are connected to each other. They might be separated from each other also, depending upon the types of chip, whether it is continuous or discontinuous. But this kind of movement is considered to be there. That is sliding of one layer of chip over the other. That movement is going to be takes place along certain inclination. That inclination is denoted by phi, and that is called as shear angle. In fact, the line that I have drawn over here, this plane is called as shear plane, because along this plane the material is being sheared. So that plane is called as shear plane, and inclination of that one along or with respect to motion of the cutting, because cutting tool is moving in this direction. So if I measure the inclination of that plane with this direction, that inclination is called as shear angle, and that is denoted by phi. Now here, this is actual dimension of the workpiece. If I start cutting from here, this much material is to be removed in a single pass. So this height we call depth of cut. Also, we call it as a T0, that is uncut chip thickness. This one we have discussed. And when it get transformed into chip, its its thickness increases, and that becomes TC, and that is called as chip thickness. Now, in this sketch, if I construct a triangle by referring the horizontal line, that is cutting direction, in this direction cutting tool is moving, this inclined line, that is shear plane, inclination of shear plane, and a line parallel to this rake face over here. So I will get one triangle, and that triangle has been represented over here. The triangle, this is point A, this is point B, and this one. We can consider this one triangle, or also we can consider this one triangle. All these are similar triangles, and by the concept of similarity of triangles, you can consider this one as well as this one. If you consider this triangle, you will get this sketch, and if you consider this triangle, you will get this sketch. So don't get confused between those two. So in this triangle, let's consider this one. This is inclination phi. Suppose this point is point A, this is point C, this is point B. Those are the corner points for the triangle A, B, C. And from C, if I draw a line perpendicular on this side AB, I'll suppose I get the point O. Now in this triangle, the inclination of shear plane, this is actually our shear plane, its inclination with horizontal is phi. Now this is our rake face of the cutting tool, and if I measure its inclination with vertical, that inclination is nothing but the rake angle denoted by alpha. So here this is vertical line, and inclination of that face is denoted by alpha. Now in this triangle, if this is phi, this is alpha, this total angle is 90, because this is vertical and this is horizontal. So this horizontal line is nothing but this one, and this vertical is the vertical axis that we have drawn over here. So that total angle is 90. So if I subtract this alpha from that 90, remaining angle I'll get 90 minus alpha. Now this is alpha, this is 90 minus alpha. So if I calculate the angle over here, that will become 90 minus phi plus alpha. Okay, because the total angle has to be 180. So if I subtract everything from 180, this 90 minus alpha and phi, I will get this relation 90 minus phi plus alpha, and that will be the remaining angle at corner B. Additionally, there is another angle phi minus alpha. Phi minus alpha is angle between this rake face and this perpendicular. The angle between those two is denoted by phi minus alpha. Now how to calculate that one? Again, you need to consider that triangle. This angle we have calculated 90 minus phi plus alpha. This is 90. So one angle is 90, another is 90 minus phi plus alpha. I need to calculate the remaining. So if I subtract again this 90 minus phi plus alpha and 90 from this 180, I will get remaining angle phi minus alpha. So that way you will get all the inclinations. Now once you have got those inclinations, there are certain relations that we are going to study in the upcoming slides. But before that, how you got that 90 minus 5 plus alpha, 90 minus alpha, 5 minus alpha, that was supposed to be clear to you. So if you have any doubt, if you need any further clarification, let me know so that I would explain it again, or else I'll proceed to the next slide. Should I move to next slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Uh, next point that we are going to discuss is types of chips. Just as I mentioned over here, these segments may be connected to each other or separate from each other. So whether they are connected with each other or separate from each other, that will be dependent of the types of the chips. So basically, there are here I have mentioned 4 types, but if you refer to some other book, you will get 3 types only. The 3 types are continuous, discontinuous, and continuous with built-up edge. But additionally, there is one more category that is called as serrated or segmented chips. So even if you write continuous, discontinuous, and continuous with built-up edge chips, you will get the full marks. And if you additionally explain this serrated chips, that would be a better representation of. You will have some few additional marks in some other questions because of the impression that you will create. So don't worry about this one. That here 4 types, and in some other books only 3 are there. Okay, so the 4 types are continuous chips, continuous with built-up edge. So this built-up edge is nothing but continuous with built-up edge, serrated or segmented, and last one is discontinuous. So let's discuss individual type of chip, when they forms, and what are their advantages or disadvantages. So first one is continuous chips. So when do we get continuous chips? There are few conditions. If those conditions are met, you will get continuous chips. So what are the conditions? First one, when work material is ductile. When you machine the brittle material, you will get discontinuous chips because the chips are going to be in the form of powder. So the first condition to get the continuous chip is material has to be ductile. Additionally, the cutting speed has to be high. When you machine with high speed cutting rate, you will get continuous chip. Additionally, the feed rate and depth of cut has to be a small one. So when you remove material by offering a small depth of cut and small feed rate with high speed, you will get continuous chip. So when all these conditions are met, you are going to get the continuous chip. So what are the advantages? Whenever you get the continuous chip, most probably you will get the good surface finish. So advantage is you will have a better surface finish with continuous chips. But it has got some limitations also. What are the limitations? Continuous chips means the chips, once you start removing the material, you will get a continuous segment or continuous chip that is a very long one. So such a lengthy chips will start tangling about the cutting tool. म्हणजे कटिंग टूलच्या भोवताली त्या गुंडाळायला चालू होते. So that chips may start tangling about the cutting tool. Additionally, they may create a disposal problem also, because those lengthy chips will require more space to store or dispose, and that would be another problem. Additionally, those tangling chips around the cutting tool, if that tangling continued further, that may, or those chips may come in contact with the finished workpiece, as well as the machine operator also. So that is going to be harmful to operator also. And because of all those limitations, even the continuous chips are desirable because you are going to get the better surface finish. That length has to be restricted. Means continuous chips are forming, that is fine, but its length should not be too long. So what we need to do, we need to break the chips in between. And to break those chips in between, usually the cutting tools are provided with chip breakers. So what is chip breakers? That we will discuss in the upcoming slides. But at the moment, remember that one. To break the continuous chips, there are the cutting tools provided with the chip breakers. So this is about the continuous chip. Second, continuous with built-up edge. So when do we get continuous with built-up edge chip, or what is meant by built-up edge chip? Built-up edge chip is when you start removing material somewhere here, the material will start sticking to the cutting tool. This is the chip form that is flowing across the rake face. Out of the removed material, some material will start sticking the cutting tool, and that sticking will further result into piling up material on the cutting tool. At one limit, or after certain limit that has reached, what will happen? That accumulated material over here will stick to the chip that is being formed. Means the material will start sticking to the cutting tool, it will start accumulating, and at one instant it will stick to one of the surface of the formed chip and it will go away with the chip. But what will happen? The material that has got stick to the cutting tool edge, and when it sticks to chip and it goes away, while going away with the chip, it will take some cutting tool material also with it, because it was stick to the cutting tool. And when it leaves the cutting tool and goes away with the chip, it takes some material from the cutting tool. That is nothing but the wear of the cutting tool, and that is not desirable. Additionally, that piled up material sometimes starts depositing on the finished surface. There is a large amount of material that is being piled up, so some material from that sticked material to cutting tool will start depositing on the fresh workpiece surface also. And if something is getting deposited on the fresh cut workpiece surface, that is going to have adverse effect on the finish, right? So that is also not desirable. So that is the continuous with built up edge chip and its limitations. So when do we get the continuous with built up edge chip? Again, similar conditions are there, similar to continuous chip only. So when you machine the ductile material, but the cutting speeds are low to medium. So when you look at the continuous chip, the cutting speed was high. So when you replace this high speed with either low speed or medium speed, you will get a continuous with built-up edge chip. All other conditions are similar. The reason for formation of this built-up edge chip is friction between cutting tool and chip. The friction between cutting tool and chip. Because of that one, the material start adhering to the rake surface of the cutting tool, and that sticking of that material to the cutting tool will causes the issues that we just discussed, that is wear of the cutting tool as well as deposition of that material on the fresh machine surface also. And because of those two major drawbacks, this continuous with built-up edge chip has to be avoided. Now, how to avoid formation of this one? As the low to medium cutting speeds are majorly causing this formation of continuous with built-up edge chip. So increase the cutting speed. That is the first solution. What is second solution? Decrease the depth of cut. If you decrease the depth of cut, that generation of cutting forces, generation of temperature will reduce, and that will result in reduction of the formation of continuous with built-up edge chip. Then increase the rake angle, or use the sharp tools. Both are going to reduce the formation of continuous with built-up edge chip. Additionally, you can go for the cutting fluids, coolants or cutting fluids. That way you can have control over the temperature generation, heating in the cutting zone, and that can result in reduction in the formation of this particular chip. Additionally, you can go for a cutting tool which has got a less chemical affinity about the workpiece, because the one of the reason for formation of this one is usually when temperature increases of the cutting tool as well as workpiece. Here, because of if there is chemical affinity between the cutting tool and workpiece, there might be some chemical reactions being takes place, and that chemical reactions might be resulting to the formation of this type of chip. So if you go for a cutting tool which has got a less chemical affinity about the workpiece material, then you can avoid formation of this kind of chip. So that is about continuous with built-up edge. Next, serrated. Serrated is this one. Serrated chips are also kind of continuous chip only, but the other surface of that chip will be having saw tooth nature. If you have seen the sawmill, that blade that is used to cut the woods and all, that will be having this kind of teeth. And in this serrated chips, the surface of the form chips will be having that saw tooth appearance, and because of that appearance, the chips are called as serrated chips. The reason for formation of this kind of chips is fluctuation in the strains or shear strains generated during the cutting process. The increase and decrease in shear strains will result in the formation of serrated chips. That is the major reason. And the this kind of chips usually forms when the workpiece materials that are being cut are falls under the category difficult to machine materials. There are some advanced materials that are called as difficult to machine or difficult to cut materials. What are those materials? Titanium alloys are there, nickel based super alloys are there, austenitic stainless steels are there. When you machine these materials, there are possibilities of formation of this kind of chips. Okay, so that is all about the serrated chips. And last one is discontinuous chip. Discontinuous chips usually forms when you machine a brittle material. You can observe easily when you machine the cast iron, as you start machining, the form chips will be like a powder, or that will be having powder form. A small segment should be there, and that kind of chips are called as discontinuous chips. So when you machine brittle material, additionally when cutting speeds are low, then these kind of chips may form. The first reason is brittle material and additional reason is low cutting speeds. Now, the discontinuous chips are, as we discussed while talking about the continuous chips, the surfaces generated when you get the continuous chips are having better finish, and in case of discontinuous chips, the condition is exactly reverse. So the formation of discontinuous chips tends to impart irregular texture on the machine surface. Why we get a irregular texture? Because fracture is brittle fracture. So as you start machining, the chips form are like segments. So one segment generated fall off, another segment generated it fall off. So the cavities that are going to be generated on the work surface may be irregular, and because of that one, the texture generated is going to be irregular. So surface finish will be issue when you get the discontinuous types of chips. So what are the additional conditions? The first one is brittle workpiece. That is the main thing resulting into formation of discontinuous chips. Another reasons are the workpiece contains inclusions. Inclusions means some foreign particles, some impurities are there. If those impurities or foreign particles are there inside the workpiece material, then while removing the material, those impurities, when dislodged from the work surface, they are going to create some cavities, irregular cavities, and that is going to be result into the formation of discontinuous chips. Additionally, when cutting speeds are very low, when depth of cut are very large, rake angles are also low, or the cutting fluids are not used efficiently or not used at all, and if the fixtures and tool holders which has got less stiffness, if those structures are less stiff, and if you machine components on those kind of structures, then that is going to be result into formation of discontinuous chips. So all these are the reasons for the formation of discontinuous chips. When do we get, and what are their drawbacks? So all these things we have discussed over here. Next thing that we are supposed to discuss is chip breaker, and that we will be talking in the next session, because meeting is just about to end, so better we stop over here. We have got 1.5 minutes. If you have any doubt, any query, we can discuss.